Hey YouTube, Maddie's Daddy 12, Team JMT, coming to you guys with my latest video, which is the answers and shout out video for my Yu-Gi-Oh! U-Rule number 1. So let's get into the shout outs first, which would be TheDemiseKing. Really cool guy, check him out, he seems pretty cool. Next is Nightmare686. Make sure you check this guy out because he did exactly what I hope all of you did. He did his research. Not only does he do his research, but he actually does his research while making his response video. I don't know what his sources were, but he goes to his sources during the video to make sure that he has the text of the cards correct and make sure that he's getting the ruling right. So hats off to him. Next, Ryan Campos 137. This cat really seems to have his act together when it comes to scraps. He is probably the most informative of the 3 videos, especially when it comes to the scrap question. So make sure you guys go and check him out, especially if you have any questions about scraps, because this guy really seems to know what's going on when it comes to that deck type. So let's go ahead and get into the answers to the questions. Number 1 scenario was Icarus attack versus a lanced monster. So Lance sets a condition on the Gale saying that Gale is unaffected by other spells and traps. Icarus attack says to tribute 1 winged beast monster to destroy 2 cards on the field. What you've got to understand is the Icarus attack is not affecting Gale. Tributing Gale to Icarus attack is the cost of activating Icarus attack. So what you need to understand and what you need to realize when looking at a scenario like this is a card such as Icarus attack is not affecting the monsters. It is tributing the winged beast is the cost, and that the cost have to be paid. So there you go, guys. The answer to number 1 is yes, Gale can be tributed even though that it has been lanced and is unaffected by other spells. And the reason being is because tributing the monster is the cost of Icarus attack and not the effect of Icarus attack. Next, we're going to talk about the Shrink Lance Shrink. I kind of threw a little curveball to you guys, adding in Thunder King Ryu and Sangin, hoping that some of you guys would get confused on whether or not Sangin gets to search, and that kind of seems to have happened. So +1 Matty Daddy 12. But however, Thunder King and Sangin really have nothing to do with the video, with the scenario. But since Thunder King was in it, I'm going to go ahead and use him as the example. So if you saw the Rollings 1, you know that scenario 2 was attacking Thunder King. Player 2 plays Shrink. Player 1 responds Lance. Player 2 responds a second Shrink. So first thing to recognize is that the end of the chain is here. Chains resolve backwards. 3, 2, 1. So what happens here is Thunder King's attack is halved by Chain Link 3 Shrink, taking him to 950. Then Chain Link 2 resolves, which is Forbidden Lance, which takes his attack down to 800, or takes it 800, which takes it down to 150 attack, and now it is unaffected by other spells and traps. At that moment, the condition of Lance is set. So then Chain Link 1 resolves, which is Shrink, so it resolves without an effect, because at this point, the condition of Lance has been set, and the monster is unaffected by spells and traps. So looking at this scenario, what ends up happening is Thunder King ends the chain at 150 attack and will actually die to the Sangin. The reason being is because chains resolve backwards, 3, 2, 1, and at the time that Shrink resolves, the condition for Lance has not been set. Now if you go to Ryan Campos' video, he makes a really good point about if he was to play Lance on his monster and then play Dark Hole, his monster is unaffected. The reason that happens is the condition for Lance has already been set, and then the dark hole is being played as a separate chain. He also makes the example that if Skill Drain is on the field, he can play Lance on his Scrap Dragon and still use his effect. I'm not for certain on this one. I'm going to do some research, talk to John Rocha, and see if I can get the right answer on that one. But I believe the reason that is still he's able to do that is because Skill Drain is a continuous effect, and once Forbidden Lance sets its condition, it's no longer affected by that. But like I said, I'm not for sure on the ruling on the Skill Drain. We'll check into that and find out. So that's number 2. Thunder King ends up at 150 and will die to the Sangan. So now let's go on to scenario number 3. And again, Ryan Campos hit this one right on the nose. My question was, as these two resolve, would either one of them miss timing if I summon Scrap Beast, my opponent plays Bottomless Trap Hole, and then I play Scrap Storm? Would either one of these miss timing? That was my question. And Ryan Campos actually hits this right on the nose. I actually tried to trick you guys with this one because Mech Lord misses timing on this chain completely, but not because of Scrap Beast. Mech Lord misses timing because he is a win this effect. A win this effect means that there's a condition that has to be met. And his is when a monster is destroyed by an effect. When one of your monsters is destroyed by an effect, you can special summon him. So the last thing that has to happen is the monster being destroyed by the effect in order to special summon him. And what's happening here is I'm summoning Beast, my opponent is activating Bottomless Trap Hole, and I'm chaining Scrap Storm. So as the chain resolves backwards, 2-1, what happens is Scrap Storm resolves, I dump the monster, draw the card, destroy Scrap Beast. Then Bottomless Trap Hole still has to resolve. It resolves without an effect, but it still has to resolve. So the last thing to happen in this scenario is Bottomless Trap Hole resolving without an effect. That is why Mech Lord misses timing. It's not because of Scrap Beast. So we've talked about the win this effect of that. Now let's talk about the if this effect in this scenario. Scrap Beast is not eligible to miss timing because this is a if this effect. If this effects stay at any time that this happens, he immediately activates and is going to start another chain once this chain resolves. So because of this scenario, Scrap Beast still activates because he is a if this effect. If this card is destroyed by a scrap card, you get to do this. So you get to add the card because of his effect. Even though Bottomless still has to resolve, this condition was still met. That's why Scrap Beast is still good in this situation and Mech Lord is not. To explain to you guys exactly how this would have to work, to give you guys a real quick example of what you could do is Scrap Beast is on the field. I declare a direct attack. The attack goes through. I then activate Scrap Storm, targeting Scrap Beast. I dump the monster, I draw the card, then Scrap Beast is destroyed. The last thing that happens is Scrap Beast being destroyed. So then, because that's the last thing that happens, I can activate Mech Lord's effect and special summon, and then activate as Chain Link 2 Scrap Beast's effect to add the card to my hand. The reason I can do that is, like I said, the last thing that happens in this resolving chain is the Scrap Beast being destroyed. So there you go, guys. That's how you can search with the Scrap Beast or Scrap Goblin and still summon Mech Lord Granol. So there you go, guys. There are my answers to these 3 scenarios. I talked to John Rocha from the Louisville area. Double checked all my rulings with him. So a big shout out to John Rocha. Make sure that anytime you guys have a chance to go to a tournament that he is judging, you make it there, because he is one of, if not the top judges in this area. I really feel that he's probably one of the top-notch judges in the country. So thanks a lot, John, for helping us out. And like always, guys, subscribe, comment down below, and show us how much you love us.